Mustangs are off of that bye, and then they get right back at it to face a team that was playing for a conference championship last year in Virginia. The Hoos come to Dallas. This is a part of a stretch that from the end of the Louisville game, when SMU gets back on the plane and lands in Dallas, SMU will have been home for, by the end of this stretch, from September 19th, let's say late evening, maybe early morning of the 20th, all the way until they step on a plane to go at Syracuse on October 30th. SMU is going to be home for well over a month. And this is a huge matchup in a sense. You want to continue to be a team that takes care of business against a team like Virginia, like they did in Charlottesville a couple years ago.
We were at that game in Charlottesville. I mean, that was one of those games where it took SMU a minute to get going. And eventually they ended up, it was like a 30-point win for SMU. It ended up being one of the kind of those underrated games, as I think Kevin played pretty well in that one. But when Tony Elliott's going to come to Dallas with Virginia, they're not going to have Chandler Morris, as he's pursuing, what is it, a 7th year of college football right now?
Yeah.
But it's going to be a totally different team. However, they're still going to have some kind of championship DNA after going to Charlotte last year and playing for a championship and being so close to finally bringing home an ACC football championship, only to be upset by the then 7-5 Duke Blue Devils. So it's going to be one of those seasons where Virginia is going to have to figure out going into the year, what kind of team are we? Because there was all this media hype about how they didn't play anybody in 2025 of, well, they kind of just walked into Charlotte unscathed, so to say, and they lost to NC State earlier in the year. So this was one of those teams that on paper you're looking at it as the ACC runner-up, but I'm going to look at it as one of those teams that this is a game that SMU should win, and dare I say should win comfortably. They're going to have a brand new quarterback. Kevin is going to be in his 5th year. He's going to be in October midseason form. He's going to be coming off of a bye. This is one of those games that I think SMU can build a lot of confidence going into, where I could see it looking like a 2025 Louisville game, where I could see SMU getting on the gas and stepping on their throat at the end of this one. I think this is another one that you're catching SMU at the right time in the middle of this long home stretch, that this could be a really fun game for SMU if it doesn't end up being an 11 o'clock kickoff.
Rhett Lashley, very good coming off bye weeks as well. So that's something to keep an eye on there. And I think you brought up a great point about Kevin being in midseason form. Man, if he's healthy, you know what I mean? Like, he played in every game last year, made every start, all those things. But we saw it all year. It just hampered him, that foot, ankle, whatever it was, injury. And that is I don't want to say wild card, but that's the X factor of this SMU team and where it's going to be heading. I mean, when Kevin is healthy, when he's on, I mean, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the country. And I would expect big things from SMU in this stretch run, where, especially if they get off to a good start, even if they go, 2-1 in those first 3 weeks, you're looking at a team that should be well inside the top 25 still going into this matchup against Virginia, and probably, pushing itself up into that conversation around, the ACC championship, of course. But I still think SMU is going to kind of change a narrative this year. I think at some point there's probably a stumble here, and we'll get to November, but this Virginia game is one that I would expect, with their tendencies to be very good after bye weeks, for them to be ready to go and take care of business in this one.
I've got my eye on the stumble game, and we'll get to that one later.
Yeah,
but
maybe next week.